Hey, RetconRaider here, with special thanks to the Raiders, the fine folks who help make these videos possible, including but not limited to Dragon Matrix 7, Mathew Smith, Revenant, Alois, Drakiith, Erie V23, EgonAlter, Emile, Exsellsior, Gottlieb, James Trimmier, Kazorm, Nathan Welch Jr., RandomPassrby, RobbyB, Tomasz Piątkowski, Triphoppenskip, and Valinrook. Thanks for your support, guys. That said, let's get started. And welcome back to Pathfinder Through the Ashes. As today we set our sights on some of the more daunting challenges we've encountered down in these caves. Though I think we'll hold off on Death on 8 Legs for the moment. I considered opening the episode by taking a run at it, but I think with a challenge rating of 11, that's going to be the most lethal thing we encounter down here. That aside, I did discover that despite being a single target blunt attack, Aiden's Earth Blasts can inflict full damage on these swarms, so that makes me a lot more comfortable with trying to take them out. We'll see if we can knock this one out first, access that other sewer section we saw, and then we'll just sort of branch out from there, see where that takes us. Hey, 1 hit point left. That makes this easy. There we go. Which gives us access to another trading mushroom. Plus that bit of loot there, and more spiders. Nice hit. And no one else on the timeline. This one might be alone. Yep, that was it. Cool. Well, now it feels too easy. I'm used to being terrified. Hey, more mushrooms. Nice. Based on the shape of that container, I was expecting a first aid kit. Alright, so that's 40. And we have another swarm down there, near that skeleton. Oh, giant centipede right around the corner. We'll just trigger it. Oh, 2. That's slightly more problematic.
Don't hold back! Die!
And then there was one. And then there was none.
One with the shadows.
I was about to say we needed to be on guard for more gelatinous cubes, but then they threw something much easier at us instead. You're slipping through the ashes.
Damn it.
The masonry looks very old. Were these tunnels built by some ancient people before Canabris was erected above? Huh. Well, this territory used to be part of Sarkarus, but the Sarkorians kind of struck me as more of, what was it, nomadic plains dwellers? I don't think stone sewer systems would really be their thing. Or was this part of an adjacent territory? Alchemist kit. That's unexpected. I wasn't sure we'd actually find one, so I didn't really plan around the idea of brewing, though it could be useful. I guess we'll hold on to that for now, just in case. What a terrible smell. I think we should steer clear of this water. That's not a cooperation symbol, that's a tool symbol. But we already used our tools getting to death on 8 legs, which we could have actually done from another direction, so that was kind of a waste. Well, I guess we'll keep an eye out then. Hopefully we can still get back there. But for now, let's go grab that other loot we just saw. Oh, and there's our cube.
Should I?
Can't target it. You know, I actually looked up gelatinous cubes between episodes after we ran into that first one. And yeah, this thing is much less deadly than it should be. In classic editions, gelatinous cubes paralyzed on touch, and then would engulf and digest their prey for like 3d6 damage per round, plus suffocation depending on how nasty the DM was feeling. This version though, this one swaps out paralysis for that 10-foot nauseating aura, which is wider reaching. It affects more characters at once, but it's also far less devastating because the paralysis was like average 10 rounds, I think. And I guess Owlcat couldn't really emulate the engulf attack either, so it ends up being way less deadly than it rightfully should be.
Strike!
Yeah, this version is barely a challenge, which is funny because while it's fun to see them, it does stand in kind of stark contrast to how overwhelming a lot of the other encounters are. Requires key. No lockpicking check. Interesting. Man, back in the day, one of the meanest things I saw in a low-level adventure was a 10-foot by 10-foot pit with a gelatinous cube at the bottom. The idea being that the player would fall into it, the gelatinous cube would break their fall, but then they'd be paralyzed when they landed on it, or in it, rather. And it would just start eating them while the rest of the players tried to figure out some way to get down there and rescue them. Oh, secondary exit. Right next to the first one, sort of. Which also nets us 600 XP. And pushes us to level 2. Fantastic. Though obviously we're not leaving just yet. There's still loose ends here. Alright, so we still have that locked chest near the first exit. We have this locked door here with another container behind it. Must be something good if it's plot locked. We also have that flooded tunnel, which we need tools for. And then, of course, the spider swarm and death on 8 legs. let's hit the pause button real quick. I'll figure out what we're doing with these level ups, and then hopefully we can clear up the rest of these loose ends. We'll be right back. And we're back. Turns out our level ups are pretty straightforward. We're only really planning out to level 5, and as is my wont, I'm mainly planning around single-class characters, so this should just take a moment. Let's run through it real quick. First things first, we've got Grim, who will of course remain a student of stone. Level 2 nets him +1 base attack, +1 fortitude, and +1 reflex, as well as hard as stone, inappropriate, which makes him more resistant to critical hits. Oh, and he picks up a bonus monk feat as well. Though the list for bonus monk feats is actually much more limited than I would have expected. We'll touch on that in a second. Skills are skills. Not much to say there, though I will say I do kind of wish I'd planned out skill distribution a little better. But I went into this without having any idea who our companions were going to be. So we're a little all over the place. Bonus feat. We have very few options here. I was actually kind of surprised. I knew the pool was narrow, I just didn't realize it was this narrow. Logically, we should probably go crane style, but I feel like that's overdone. I mean, I was giving it to a horse in the main series. That aside, I've kind of got my heart set on pummeling style instead. It just feels like more of a grim caldera style. But regardless, pummeling style is not an option for us right now. We can't pick that up till level 3. So instead we'll just grab combat reflexes. That's a nice basic one that, as we've seen in the main series, can come in handy. Though I will say, blind fight was a close second. That one's just a little too situational for me to really want to invest in right now, because I have no idea if we're going to run into invisible foes or characters with gaze-based attacks. And that's it for Graham. Next we've got Sir Brown, who's already had some nice upgrades now that we've got him in some proper gear. But his second level in War Priest nets him +1 base attack, +1 fortitude, and +1 reflex, as well as Fervor, which is basically a modified lay on hands. Again, skills are already set, not a lot to say there. We're obviously going positive energy for Fervor. That's 3 minor but welcome heals per day. And that is it for Brown. Next we've got Kanos, who's still waiting on some proper gear. But in the meantime, we pick up our second level of Drovier, which nets, again, +1 base, +1 fort, and +1 reflex. As well as Woodland Stride. Not a huge deal, but faster movement certainly doesn't hurt. It'll just be kind of pointless once he hits level 4 and we can ride. Skills are skills. Nature's getting pretty hefty there. And we're done with Kanos, but not with Gaia. Though, of course, there's not much going on with animal companions at level 2. +1 base, +1 fort, +1 reflex. And some token bumps to skills. I will say, if I'd known stealth was going to be so important in this DLC, I would have definitely tried to plan around that. Ideally, we would have slapped it on every character in our party. After that, we've got Reckert. And given that they've already started him off as a range-based rogue, we'll just stick with that. He pulls +1 base, +1 reflex, a free rogue talent, and evasion, as well as the usual assortment of rogue-like skills. And as for our rogue talent, I'm thinking we'll do something I don't normally do, and go for skill focus, because as we've seen, Reckert isn't really great with disarming traps and opening locks. I mean, there was a chest in the other room that he only had a 30% chance to crack, which more importantly means that there was a whopping 45% chance that he would permanently jam it if we even tried. I mean, given how scarce gear has been in general, we really need to be able to get whatever we can get. And that's it for Reckert. Which brings us to Aiden. Second level in Kineticist nets him the usual +1 base, +1 fort, +1 reflex. as well as his first wild talent, and his passive defense ability, which in his case, as an Earthbender, is a straightforward DR1, plus an additional one every 2 levels, so it actually scales pretty quickly. Skills are skills, though in this case I do fully expect our eventual Sorcerer to overlap with these, but we'll see. As for our wild talent, our selection here is fairly limited. One of the big downsides to being an overwhelming soul is that burn-based wild talents are completely useless to us. So it really just kind of came down to grabbing a passive save bonus. My first thought was Great Fortitude for +2 fort, but then I realized that just picking up a familiar would actually give us more bonuses. Hence, I instead grabbed Elemental Whispers Rat Familiar, which not only grants us +2 Fortitude, but also gives us an extra +2 Perception as a bonus. It was either that or Lizard for the AC bonus, but given the sheer volume of venomous foes we've encountered thus far, Fortitude just seemed like the safer bet. That said, as usual, feel free to leave comments or suggestions down in the comments below. I kind of did this on the fly, but I'm always happy to look at recommended changes. I'm just trying to keep it relatively simple, you know? Simple, slightly quirky, and hopefully effective. Oh, also, we picked up a couple of new spell slots on Brown and Kanos, but we're not going to worry about those just yet. We wouldn't be able to fill them until we rest anyway, and I'm trying to put that off as long as possible. Probably just Bless and Entangle, respectively. Okay, so we've got a pretty good idea of what we have left to do. We've got the Eight-Legged God of Death, we've got the Errant Swarm, we've got the Flooded Room, and we've got this chest over here, which I think we're going to start with. However, in now looking at the map, it's glaringly obvious that the supposed exit right behind it is not actually marked as an exit. And we can see a sliver of the interior of the room, which is detailed like a normal room, which heavily implies that was just a fake out. That's not a real exit. So we're going to check that out too. I fully suspect it's some sort of trap or ambush, though I might not have expected it earlier, had I immediately clicked on it. Though why would I, when there was still so much map left unexplored?
I managed.
Nice. And a potion of mage armor. That'll come in handy. We'll toss the backup torch to Grim. He's got the best 2 hits. Let's get a better peek through that gap. Oh, never mind. We're fighting a door, which is apparently an ooze. Interesting. I would have figured Mimic.
I got this. Die!
Okay, now it's more oozy. And the Uzi is jammed. Oh, it had a key. Really playing up that whole door angle. And a set of tools. Awesome. Okay, we're headed right back where we just were. I assume the key is for this door here. And then we can also clear out that flooded hall.
One with the shadows.
Potion of Cure Moderate. Alright. I expected something better, but we'll take it. Let's check the hall. Yeah, that's how tools work. Oh, here we go. That's a Cloak of Resistance +1 and a Wand of Cure Light Wounds. Cloak goes to Brown because it matches his outfit better. Grim would feel silly in a cape. And Wand of Cure goes to Kanos, who for the moment is still taking more of a support role. We'll get a bit more aggressive with him once we get him some proper armor. Hide and a heavy shield. Oh wow, 15 charges. Yeah, they're being crazy generous all of a sudden. And now we are in fantastic shape to take out that second swarm, which was right about here. Yeah, that's it, right there. And this should be easy, now that we know that Aiden can just blast it. Actually, let's push this real quick. Okay, just wanted to make sure that wouldn't reveal anything else. Let's get ourselves warmed up here. All set, let's do this.
Here we go again.
Fingers crossed.
Here comes trouble.
That'll do it. Thank you, Aiden. Which gets us a bottle. Okay. I'm glad we took that thing out so easily, because if we had put any real effort into that fight, I would be very disappointed right now. That risk-reward ratio was just vile. I'm 10 XP. Malorn, you old bag of salt. I would like to give you this stack of mushrooms. And how about this? Oh, no, I'm not selling that for 3 gold. And in return, I would like 1 set of hide, which would not leave us enough for a heavy shield. Both would be a net bonus of +2 AC. But if we take the hide, we can free up the leather and pass that off to someone else. So hide goes to Kanos, which bumps him up to 17. And then the leather goes to, let's say, Record. But only until mage armor wears off on Sir Brown. At that point, the leather will go to him instead. Unless we find something better. Either studded or chain. Which brings us to the moment I've been dreading. The eight-legged god of death. Death on 8 legs. And while I can't guarantee we can actually take this guy out, I would like to give it at least one serious, solid shot. I mean, if we can get that last mushroom, that's a heavy shield for Kanos. Tempting certain death for a non-magical heavy shield. Never thought I'd see the day. Kudos through the ashes. We will, of course, hedge our bets as much as possible.
Should I? What's going on here?
Nope. Try again. And showtime.
This will do quick.
Nice. Good opener. Oh, I was not expecting ads. One moment.
You're not a threat. You're an obstacle.
High chance to hit, but low damage output. And no poison. Alright, okay. Yeah, we'll stay focused on the big guy. Oh my goodness, please, no. No more. Kanos, why don't you babysit the backliners?
Let's hear you cry! Don't hold back!
Nice. And now within charge range. Move up. Okay, we'll take it. Low damage is better than a miss. Oh. Right. Innate DR1. Damage output 1d4 minus 2. Only a 1 in 6 chance of actually hurting him. Change of plans. Okay then. Alright, yeah, Aiden is now bait. No, please stop. It hurts and stings. is out. But not dead.
Damn you!
Guys, I'm going to need you to land some actual hits over there.
Out of my way! Strike!
Guys, please.
You're going down!
Brown, yes. He is bringing it all of a sudden. Not to take away from Aiden's contribution. He
Are
is
you still here?
very good at being eaten by spiders. Yes, and here comes Caldera with the kill steal. That's called teamwork, probably.
It's you or me. I'll gut you! I'm done with you!
Wow. Wow. That went a whole lot better than I thought it would. That gets us 20 more gold, 10 XP, and a Ring of Protection +1. Absolutely worth it. And spicy pastry. Which I don't think we actually have ingredients for, but it's the thought that counts. They wouldn't give us the recipe if we couldn't find the ingredients. So in theory, we should be able to use that at some point. And that is it. That is everything. That's a clean sweep on the caves. With time to spare, so I guess we can push on. You know, I figured we'd have to rest after that, but we're actually still in pretty good shape. Health's okay, no fatigue. Light poison damage on Grim, disease on Kanos. I would like to treat that disease before we rest, but we're not resting, so it's not an issue yet. Alright, Owlcat. What new nightmares await us on map 3? Shades and zombies, I imagine. Yay. Oh. Having left the enraged cultists behind, the daring group of escapees plunged deeper and deeper into the sewage canals under Canabris. Passages as vile and twisted as the plans of any demon. The cultists' yelling faded, giving way to deep growling coming from somewhere in the fetid darkness. Some unknown predator was prowling around, never approaching but constantly dogging the group's steps. The winding tunnel then came to a fork. The main route was blocked by a vast cesspool, a whole underground lake of filth. Untold dangers could be lurking in the darkness of the older and narrower passages that branched off in all directions from the lake. The path onward was unclear. What was the great danger? Haste or delay? Which way should they go? What should they do? After a brief discussion, the escapees decided to... Well, one thing's for certain, we're not going to rush through this, because that sounds like the worst idea. I guess we'll take a quick breather, try to collect our thoughts. We have no shortage of perception characters, so that should be relatively safe. The role of Lookout was assigned to... Oh, I thought we'd be able to use our party members for this. Apparently we can only use the non-combat followers. That changes things. I guess Langrat? Langrat's acute hearing proved unexpectedly useful in the tunnels. He flawlessly anticipated every one of the mysterious predator's approaches and raised the alarm, thus preventing an attack. The creature soon decided to leave, in search of less vigilant prey. Okay. Right, that makes sense. He's a musician. The tunnels have unique acoustics. He, I guess, would be very sensitive to that. Interesting. So that's what we have to keep in mind, is the talents and weaknesses of each of our followers. Let's try the cesspool. Oh, look at that. Langrat is no longer a choice. Because we already chose him for one, which means we now have to choose between Freda and Bamir. And since Langrat was perfect for that other one of these two must be perfect for this. Okay, it's a cesspit. Bamir has an open wound. And as a dwarf, Freda would be naturally resistant to poisons and disease. I feel like that tracks. With astounding self-control, the short-statured Freda entered the foul waters and spent more than half an hour carefully feeling out the walls in hopes of finding a gap the escapees could slip through to continue moving forward. Alas, her efforts met with little success. She finally climbed out of the water and, with quiet moans, touched the horrible festering blisters that now covered her arms and legs. Uh-oh. Still, her efforts were not entirely in vain. When she closely examined not just the walls, but the floor as well, Freda discovered something curious and extracted it from the depths. It was a waterproof tube, of the kind used by mages. Who knew where it had been lost, or from where the sewer waters had carried it? Scroll of Blank. Okay. I don't like the fact that she got blisters. That implies we may have made the wrong choice there. But we did get a great scroll out of it. Let's check Freda's health real quick. Oh, right, of course, she doesn't appear because we already chose her for an option. Sending Bamir might be a bad idea, but if we don't scout the tunnels, that might cause something bad to happen too. Because then we wouldn't know how to get out. Yes, okay. 15 minutes later, his hulking figure reappeared in the darkness, alive and well. Bamir greeted his companions and said simply, "Found a path. It's cramped, but we'll fit through. His massive mutilated hands were covered in dust. His fingernails were bleeding. But he waved off any offers of help. Oh crap, is he hurt now too? Were we seriously supposed to send Freda to scout the tunnels? Oh, well, Dwarven Stone sense. Yeah, maybe that is what we were supposed to do. Thanks to the fruitful scouting mission in the tunnels, the escapees went straight toward their destination, instead of wandering in the dark for hours, exhausting themselves. The damp sewers gave way to dry and narrow caves. The escapees had no idea the maze under Canabris was so vast, deep, and horrible. Exhausted, they sat down on the rocks, fighting off hunger and fear. The escapees discussed their situation and decided to explore the mysterious caves further. Okay, these are caves, so Dwarven Stone sense. I mean, it has to be her Dwarven abilities, because what else would she be good at down here? Accounting? Safety inspections? Nothing else makes sense. Well, safety inspections, maybe. We have to try it. We need to know what she's good at. The caverns were narrow enough that Freda didn't have to rely on sight. She could just feel her way forward. Thanks to her small stature, it was easy for her to get into the smallest cracks, and her dwarvish knack for underground activities ultimately ensured her success. Upon her return, Freda proudly presented her find, a bundle wrapped in scaled leather. Inside the bundle, the escapees found strong sinew rope, a band of tribal amulets, a sharp flint knife, a whetstone, and a number of other useful items. The skin in which the treasures were wrapped had a simple map of the nearby caves, and was marked with a strange pictograph of a cat's eye, framed by 8 spider legs. We just stole one of Wenduog's hidden stashes. Well, couldn't happen to a nicer gal, I suppose. More importantly, that hits on what Freda is good at. She's small, and she has a knack for underground activities. But we do have to keep in mind that she is basically blind. Also, we saw that we do have injured. Actually, Bamir is unhurt. He's healthy. Freda was listed as unwell. We also have an option to use the rope we just found, which they wouldn't do, I assume, if it wasn't important. Yeah, let's do that. The lasso they made was solid and long. It could withstand a tug, even from large prey. Okay, well, if we're going after large prey, then we definitely don't want Langrat. He's a skinny actor. And we wouldn't want Freda because she's blind. So it has to be Bamir. He's the only one who would be strong enough to really overpower anything. Let's hope his pacifism doesn't extend to animals. Bamir came back soon enough, his mighty back buckling under the weight of a colorful, fanged lizard he had strangled with the lasso. Not willing to waste time starting a fire, the escapees quickly carved up the lizard and voraciously picked the raw, stringy, but still edible meat off the bones. The meal restored some of their strength. Fantastic. So that should hopefully wipe out Freda's injury. Grim Caldera and Record wasted no time and scouted out a safe tunnel that led to the surface. The escapees continued on their way. Record led the group through a narrow crawlway that looked like it must have appeared quite recently. It may have been caused by the earthquake unleashed by the wicked scythe of the Locust Lord Discari. Having crawled out of the caves, the escapees found themselves in a narrow tunnel paved with stone slabs. There were alcoves all over the walls with names etched above each one. These catacombs were part of one of the burial sites where Crusaders had been interred for many years. Deathly cold pierced the escapee's skin as a rippling, ghostly figure emerged from around the corner, and, wailing, immediately went out of sight again. Each member of the group could sense the danger hanging in the air. The escapees drew their weapons, ready to defend themselves. The escapees decided to... Well, right off the bat, we clearly don't want to rob graves while there's a ghost around. Let's see if we can do something about that ghost. In one of the corridors of the burial site, the group came upon a corpse, a fresh body, half burned by demon fire. Laying the ghost to rest... I mean, it has to be Langrat, right? After finding an unoccupied tomb, Langrat placed the poor fellow's remains inside, then brought out his violin and began to play. The piercing, heart-wrenching requiem that drifted through the oppressive catacombs moved all who heard it to tears. Upon returning to his awestruck companions, Langrat said quietly, "I'll have to remember that tune. It was as if my hands were playing on their own." Nice. So that should make it safer to scout or scrounge for supplies. And Bamir is our established scout. Yes. Bamir went on ahead with visible hesitation, as if expecting something bad to happen. Never before had he looked so apprehensive. Carefully examining and touching everything around him, he discovered holes in the walls. Holes that contained darts. This trap for grave robbers could have wounded the escapees, or even killed them, if not for Bamir's caution. Which means Freda must be the one to search the graves. Or not. They are very specifically saying it's sacrilegious and chaotic, and she would be lawful. In fact, Grimm probably wouldn't approve of that either. He's also lawful. You know what, we'll just pass on that. We'll have to make do without those supplies. The escapees continued onward and were excited to see that the gloomy corridors were slowly getting brighter. The surface was near. But nothing could stop the escapees at this point. They could already see a spot of light beyond the metal bars of a door at the end of the tunnel. They rushed forward without a second thought. That's a bad idea. Don't do that. Oh, never mind. Wow, that was interesting. I like that. Don't give up. Give up now when you're as good as dead, right? Wonderful, even more survivors. I'll save you as well. There's no need to fear. I like this guy already. But yes, that's our sorcerer, Sendry, apparently. About time he showed up. Alright, folks, I feel like this brings us to a pretty natural breakpoint for the episode. And this was definitely an eventful one, too. We cleared up the last loose ends in the caves, we hit level 2, and we had that extended skill challenge segment, which was very intriguing. I found that enjoyable, if also stressful. And I'm wondering if there were ways we could have actually gotten through it better, like not sending Freda in the cesspool. But would someone else have been able to handle that better than her? I mean, Langrat was clearly the right choice for standing watch. And Bamir passed every single scouting check. So maybe there were just some that you would always get hurt by, or where something bad would always happen. Or maybe there's some other option we missed. Regardless, we'll have to be careful with Freda moving forward because she is injured now. So until we can figure out how to treat that, we'll have to be very cautious with anything involving her. But otherwise, we're in pretty good shape here. Especially since we now have a full party and potentially, what is that, 4 new non-combat followers? That said, we'll hit the pause button for now. I'm going to familiarize myself with Sendry off screen and get him set up, and we will pick up here next time as we explore this delightful graveyard, no doubt rife with all manner of other horrific hazards. See you then. Oh, and remember, although I do love playing Pathfinder: Wrath of the Righteous, you can find out more about the game and the DLC by visiting the official websites. And if you'd like to help support the channel, then feel free to push the buttons that do the things, or maybe even check out the Patreon, the YouTube memberships, or the Nexus GG page. Links are in the description.
Should I?